Three on a Ticket from 1947 was the fourth of the PRC Michael Shayne films, starring Hugh Beaumont as the private eye who finds himself in over his head as one day somebody shows up in his office and promptly dies, holding a mysterious luggage ticket. And this leads into a murder case he needs to piece together. All the while, a lot of sketchy characters seem very interested in knowing what this murder victim was hiding. Well, it's a brisk little crime film at just about an hour, and it was an enjoyable entry in the series. I'll give a spoiler-free summary and then offer some closing thoughts. Well, the film opens up, and we have Michael Shayne in his office. He's there with his loyal secretary, Phyllis, played by Cheryl Walker. And all of a sudden, a mysterious character, Jim Lacey, shows up. He's not doing very well, and he collapses and dies right there in Shayne's office, clutching a piece of a mysterious luggage ticket and also holding a lot of money. Shayne thinks something suspicious is going on. He leaves Cheryl to call the police. So she makes a phone call to Inspector Pete Rafferty, played by Ralph Dunn. And as seen in previous films, he doesn't get along well with Michael Shayne. But Shayne kind of shows up a little bit later and acts surprised. And we find out that this character, Lacey, was wanted by Washington. He's somebody important, apparently. Well, the police leave. And then the lovely character of Helen Brimstead arrives, played by Louise Curie. She hires Shayne as she is apparently being blackmailed by her thug husband, Mace Morgan, played by Douglas Fowley. And she just wants him to leave her alone. Shayne takes the case, but later that night, Shayne and Phyllis are tailed by two creeps who attack Shayne. They beat him up and bring him to a dockside hideout to try to get him to tell them where Lacey's ticket is. Now, Phyllis shows up a little bit later with the police to save him before they can rough him up too much. Now, back at his office, a mysterious stranger quickly flees. He had been there apparently searching his office, and they don't get a chance to stop him. Shayne then goes to Helen's apartment, but is soon confronted by a stranger with a gun. Shayne jumps the stranger, but right as Helen arrives, the man escapes. So later at the police station, Shayne learns that the stranger is apparently a government agent named Pearson, played by Gavin Gordon. And he's an agent wanting to get some secret plans back that had been stolen by Mace Morgan. Shayne seems reluctant to go along with this guy and returns to his office where, using peanuts to help him solve the puzzle, he tries to map out who all the players are in this mystery. Because it is getting a little confusing, I guess. And watching the scene, I like the little notes of music as he tries to put everything together.
Mace Morgan. Jim Lacey. Helen Brimstead, Morgan's wife. Maybe. Pearson, a Fed. Two hoodlums. One of them named Trigger. Mr. X. Foreign agent. Piece of cardboard. Mike Shayne.
Well, Shayne then meets Helen at a restaurant, but soon that sketchy character Morgan shows up with a gun, demanding Lacey's ticket. Helen draws her own gun and shoots him, and then flees before the police arrive. Now Rafferty shows up, and of course accuses Shayne, but Shayne won't implicate Helen for the killing. Well, a little later, Phyllis decides to help Pearson out, and she goes to confront Helen in her apartment, unaware that the character Kurt Leroy, actor Charles Quigley, this gangster character who had been plotting with Helen, is there as well. They both want to get this luggage ticket. So Phyllis is taken hostage by Leroy, who demands the ticket and leaves Shayne to try to negotiate her rescue. So things are kind of heating up here, and there's not much more I can say without spoilers. So that's kind of a summary of the film. I'll leave it here, and you can check out the exciting ending for yourself and see how everything wraps up. Three on a Ticket was released in 1947 by Producers Releasing Corporation. It was directed by Sam Newfield, and this would be his final film for PRC. The story was based on the novel The Corpse Came Calling by Brett Halliday and his detective character Michael Shayne. So my thoughts on this one was that this was another enjoyable entry in the Michael Shayne series, and again, Hugh Beaumont makes it worth watching. I feel like I'm always obligated to make some sort of remark that, yes, Hugh Beaumont, he's well known as playing Ward Cleaver, but I've been digging so much into his films that I'm starting to see him more as just Ward Cleaver, but he was a very talented, very enjoyable actor to watch from this era. So I've really enjoyed digging into some of these old films that he has been in, namely these crime films. And this 40s era is really just a treasure trove of his films. And seeing him here as this tough-talking private eye, munching on peanuts as he tries to work out the puzzle of the mystery. It's just great stuff. And he gets beaten up a lot in these films. I think more than Lloyd Nolan ever did as Michael Shayne. Now, on that subject, I watch these films, and I do notice some of the subtle differences between Beaumont and Nolan's spin on the character. With Lloyd Nolan, maybe he was a little bit more easier, kind of more chill, a little sillier, singing and almost winking at the camera. But Beaumont's take on Michael Shayne, he still has that charm and confidence and the wit to make the character believable, but maybe he's just a shade darker. I can't say I really like one more than the other because the more I watch him, I really enjoy how both actors took on the character of Michael Shayne. I think they did great. Cheryl Walker is a sweetheart in this film as the long-suffering secretary of Michael Shayne. Earlier films like this seem to suggest there was maybe a little more romance between the two of them, but watching this film, not so much. So I don't know what was going on with that. She just sort of puts up with overly affectionate clients that show up and fawn all over Shayne. Or even, like in this film, she kind of puzzles over his apparent lack of patriotism. But as the film unfolds, she understands why Shayne acted the way he did. This was a good entry in the series. It was fairly brisk at just over an hour. It's got a plot that's pretty easy enough to follow, and it's got plenty of shady characters, double crosses, a femme fatale, and even a little bit of post-war espionage going on. PRC films weren't generally known for big budgets, but this one still looked pretty well produced, and I enjoyed all of the performances and seeing how all of the character storylines developed through the film. And as mentioned, Hugh Beaumont, he's just great here. He adds a believable charm and wit, and he makes this just into a fine murder mystery detective story that's worth checking out.